The whisper of the hidden recorder was the only witness to my betrayal. If I had known it was there, silently capturing every word, every moan, every moment of indiscretion, would I have acted differently? The answer haunts me still. But let me start from the beginning, because this story of love, greed, and devastating consequences is one that needs to be told. My name is Olivia, and I'm 30 years old. I grew up in Millbrook, a small town where dreams were as scarce as money, and the only way out seemed to be marrying rich. That's what my parents drilled into me from a young age. Find a man with potential, my mother would say, her eyes gleaming with a hunger of unfulfilled ambitions. Someone who can give you the life we never could. I can still remember the musty smell of our cramped living room, the faded floral wallpaper peeling at the corners, as my mother sat me down for yet another lecture on the importance of securing a wealthy husband. Her hands, calloused from years of waitressing, would grip mine tightly as she spoke, her voice tinged with desperation. "Look at me, Olivia," she'd say, gesturing to the threadbare furniture and the stack of unpaid bills on the coffee table. "Is this the life you want? To struggle every day, to count pennies, to watch your dreams slip away? No, you're smarter than that. You're prettier than that. You can have so much more." I took those words to heart, letting them shape my every decision, my every interaction. When I met Nuffin in college, I thought I'd struck gold. He was 20 like me, but with a world of promise ahead of him. Smart, from a wealthy family, and destined for greatness, or so I believed. The spark wasn't there, not really, but I convinced myself that love would grow. After all, what was passion compared to the security of a comfortable life? Our first meeting was at a campus mixer. I remember the way the fairy lights twinkled in the trees, casting a soft glow over the manicured lawn. Nathan stood out immediately. His designer clothes are a stark contrast to the thrift store finds most of us wore. He was discussing some obscure economic theory with a group of equally well-dressed students, his voice confident and authoritative. I approached, clutching my red Solar cup like a lifeline, and managed to insert myself into the conversation. Nathan's eyes lit up as I offered my own insights, clearly impressed by my knowledge. "Thank you, late-night cramming sessions." From that moment on, I made it my mission to become an integral part of his world. We dated for years, a slow dance of commitment that frustrated me to no end. I wanted the ring, the house, the future he could provide. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of hint-dropping and not-so-shuffle pushes, Nathan proposed. I'll never forget that moment. We were at Lou Bernardine, a restaurant so fancy I felt out of place just walking through the door. The sommelier had just poured us each a glass of champagne that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe, when Nathan cleared his throat nervously. "Olivia," he said, his voice wavering as he reached into his pocket. "These past few years have been, well, they've been incredible. You've become such an important part of my life, and I can't imagine a future without you in it." My heart raced as he pulled out a small velvet box. This was it, the moment I'd been working towards for years. Nathan got down on one knee, his hands shaking slightly as he opened the box to reveal a diamond ring that caught the light, sparkling like all my hopes and dreams concentrated into one perfect stone. "Will you?" I felt a twinge of guilt. Did I love him? Or did I love what he represented? The security, the status, the life I'd always dreamed of? But I pushed those thoughts aside. This was my chance, my ticket out of Millbrook and into a world of comfort and luxury. "Yes," I said, forcing a smile as I blinked back tears that I hoped looked like joy rather than relief. "Yes, I'll marry you." The restaurant erupted in applause, and Nathan beamed as he slipped the ring onto my finger. It was a perfect moment, or it should have been. But even as I smiled and kissed him, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing, that this victory, this culmination of all my planning and maneuvering, felt oddly hollow. Our engagement was a whirlwind of planning and politics. Nathan's parents never warned me, their cold politeness a constant reminder that I wasn't what they had envisioned for their son. They tried to control every aspect of the wedding, from the venue to the guest list. "We just want what's best for Nathan," his mother would say, a smile never quite reaching her eyes. I'd see the way she looked at me, assessing every detail from my clothes to my mannerisms, always finding me lacking. I gritted my teeth and went along with it, hoping to win their approval. But the real blow came when they presented us with our wedding gift. A house. A beautiful, sprawling home in an upscale neighborhood, all gleaming hardwood floors and soaring ceilings. It should have been a dream come true, but there was a catch. "We've put it in Nathan's name," his father announced, his tone leaving no room for argument. "It's just good business sense." I felt a surge of anger and hurt. This was supposed to be our home, our fresh start. But once again I was being reminded that I was an outsider in their world, that no matter how hard I tried I would never truly belong. The final insult was the printup. Nathan's parents insisted on it, threatening to cut him out of the will if we didn't comply. I sat in their lawyer's office, the leather chair creaking beneath me as I read through page after page of legalese that essentially said I would walk away with nothing if the marriage ended. "It's just a formality," Nathan assured me, his hand resting on my knee. "We'll never need it." I signed it quickly, telling myself it didn't matter. We were in love after all. What could go wrong? Oh, how naive I was. The first year of our marriage was comfortable. Nathan's job at his father's investment firm paid well. And while they hadn't become the mega success I'd hoped for, we lived a life of relative luxury. But comfort, I discovered, wasn't the same as happiness. Our neighborhood was a maze of identical McMunchians and manicured lawns, populated by people who seemed to exist solely to outdo each other. The women from my book club were more interested in gossiping about affairs and plastic surgery than discussing literature. "Did you hear about Caroline's husband?" Brittany would whisper conspiratorially over glasses of overpriced wine. "Apparently he's been seen with his secretary at the country club. And after Caroline just had her breasts done too." Can you imagine? I'd nod and make the appropriate noises of shock and disapproval, all the while feeling a gnawing emptiness inside. Is this what I had worked so hard for? A life of petty drama and surface-level relationships. At home, things weren't much better. Nathan and I had our date nights, our routines, but there was no passion, no spark. In bed it was fine, just fine. Not terrible, not earth-shattering, just there. I found myself going through the motions, faking enthusiasm and praying for it to be over quickly. I found myself staring at the ceiling at night, Nathan's soft snores beside me, wondering if this was all there was to life. The big house, the pool, and the gym membership are rarely used. They were all just distractions from the growing realization that I didn't love my husband. I loved the security he provided, the lifestyle he afforded me. But not him. Not really. And then I met Alex. It was a chance encounter at the local Whole Foods. I usually avoided such mundane tasks, preferring to have our groceries delivered, but something compelled me to go that day. Maybe it was boredom, maybe it was fate. Either way, it changed everything. I was reaching for a bottle of wine when a voice behind me said, "I'd go with the monologue if I were you. It pairs better with regret." I turned to find myself face to face with the most attractive man I'd ever seen. Tall, with piercing green eyes and a smile that seemed to promise adventure. His hair was slightly tousled, as if he'd just rolled out of bed, and he wore a faded band t-shirt that somehow made him look more put together than any of the polished country club men I was used to. "Excuse me," I said, caught off guard by both his looks and his old comment. He laughed, a rich, warm sound that sent shivers down my spine. "Sorry, Bedog. I'm Alex, and you look like someone who could use a good laugh." I should have mentioned my husband right then and there. Should have held up my left hand, flashed my wedding ring and walked away. But I didn't. Instead, I found myself smiling back, feeling a spark of something I hadn't felt in years. "I'm Olivia," I said, "and you're right, I could use a laugh. It's been a while." We chatted for what felt like hours, right there in the wine aisle. Alex was charming, funny, and refreshingly direct. He worked as a freelance photographer, he told me, his eyes lighting up as he described his latest project, documenting urban decay in forgotten neighborhoods. "It's about finding beauty in unexpected places," he said, and I found myself hanging on his every word. When he asked for my number, I gave it to him without hesitation, still not mentioning Nathan. As I drove home that day, grocery bags were forgotten in the trunk. I felt something I hadn't felt in years, excitement. My phone buzzed with a text from Alex and I smiled, already addicted to the thrill of our connection. Over the next few days, Alex and I texted constantly. I told myself we were just friends, that there was no harm in it. But deep down I knew it was more than that. I was sledding with danger and I liked it. Our first real meeting was at a small art gallery downtown. I had planned to come clean about my marriage, to set boundaries and keep things platonic. But when I saw Alex waiting for me, looking even more handsome than I remembered, all my good intentions evaporated. "I have to tell you something," I blurted out as we stood in front of a particularly abstract painting. Alex raised an eyebrow. "Sounds serious. What's up?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for his reaction. "I'm married." I expected shock, maybe anger. What I got instead was a slow, understanding nod. "I kind of figured," Alex said. "You've got that look. What do you think?" He leaned in close, his breath warm on my ear. The love of someone who needs more excitement in their life. I should have walked away then. Should have gone home to Nathan and recommitted myself to our marriage. Instead, I found myself drawn even closer to Alex, intoxicated by his presence, by the way he saw right through me. Our meetings became more frequent, more intimate. We'd grab coffee at tiny cafes Nathan would never set foot in. Go for walks in the park, always just on the edge of something more. I told myself I wasn't cheating. Not really. We hadn't done anything physical. But in my heart I knew the truth. The first time we kissed, it was like a dam breaking. All the passion, all the desire I'd been suppressing for years came rushing out. We were in his car, parked in a secluded spot overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that seemed to mirror the warmth blooming in my chest. "Olivia," Alex said, his voice low and intense. "I can't stop thinking about you." I turned to look at him, my heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. "I can't stop thinking about you either." He leaned in. I met him halfway. The kiss was everything I'd been missing. Passionate, urgent, alive. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless, my lips tingling and my head spinning. "What are we doing?" I whispered, even as I pulled in closer for another kiss. "Living," Alex replied. "Finally living." From that moment on, there was no turning back. My affair with Alex became the center of my world. I lived for our stolen moments, the rush of sneaking around, the thrill of forbidden love. With Alex, I felt young, desirable, alive in a way I hadn't in years. We'd meet in seedy motels on the outskirts of town, the kind of places that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. I'd lie to Nathan about book club meetings or volunteer work, my heart racing every time I walked out the door. With Alex, I rediscovered parts of myself I thought were long gone. We'd stay up all night talking about art, philosophy, our dreams and fears. He took me to underground concerts and dive bars, introducing me to a world so far removed from my sterile suburban existence that it felt like stepping into another dimension. "You're not like anyone I've ever met," Alex would say, tracing patterns on my skin as we lay tangled in cheap motel sheets. "You're so much more than this life you're trapped in." And I believed him. With Alex, I wasn't Nothing's wife or the girl from Millbrook who'd clawed her way into high society. I was just Olivia, raw and real and fully alive. At home, my relationship with Nathan deteriorated rapidly. I became distant, irritable, always looking for excuses to be away from him. Nathan tried, bless him. He planned date nights, bought me flowers, even suggested couples therapy. But it was too late. My heart was elsewhere. "Is everything okay?" Nathan would ask, his brow furrowed with concern. "You seem different lately." "I'm fine." I'd snap, guilt and resentment warring inside me. "Just tired. Work's been stressful." I threw myself into volunteer work and community projects, anything to justify my frequent absences. Nathan, ever trusting, never questioned it. His faith in me only made me feel worse, but not enough to stop. Things took a turn when Alex ran into financial trouble. He lost his job and got evicted from his apartment. He turned to me for help and I was torn. I wanted to be there for him, but I was also wary of becoming his financial crutch. "I'm sorry," I told him one night as we sat in my car, parked in a deserted lot. The streetlights cast an eerie glow, highlighting the desperation in Alex's eyes. "I can't give you money. It's complicated." Alex's face darkened for a moment, a flash of something ugly that made me recoil. But then he smiled, all charm once again. "It's okay, babe. I understand. We'll figure something out. And we did. We started meeting at my house when Nathan was at work. It was risky, but the danger only added to the excitement. Alex's presence in my marital home became a regular thing, and with each visit, I felt less and less connected to my old life. As time went on, Alex's attitude towards Nathan changed. He became mocking, almost cruel in his comments. "I bet he can't satisfy you like I can," Alex would say, tracing patterns on my skin as we lay in bed, my marital bed. The same bed where Nathan and I had spent countless nights, where we made plans for our future, now tainted by my infidelity. I should have defended Nathan, should have put a stop to it. But I didn't. Instead, I found myself joining in, venting all my frustrations about my husband, our marriage, even his parents. "They're probably going to leave everything to charity just to spite me," I joked one day, not realizing the weight my words would carry. Alex's eyes lit up at that, a predatory gleam that should have set off the alarm bells. "Maybe we should do something about that," he said, his tone half joking, half serious. I laughed it off, but looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. Alex was becoming possessive, jealous not just of Nathan but the life he provided me. He'd make comments about how we should be together for real, how I should leave Nathan and we could start a new life somewhere else. "Think about it, Olivia," he'd say, his eyes intense. "You and me, no more sneaking around, no more lies. We could be happy." But I wasn't ready for that. As unhappy as I was with Nathan, the thought of giving up my comfortable life terrified me. I was caught between two worlds, unable to fully commit either. And then one fateful afternoon, everything came crashing down. I was in bed with Alex, lost in the throes of passion, when I heard the front door slam. Nathan wasn't supposed to be home for hours. Panic set in as footsteps approached the bedroom. "Quick," I hissed at Alex, shoving him towards the closet. "Hide." But it was too late. The door flew open and there stood Nathan, his face a mask of pain and fury. In his hand was a small device, a recorder. "I knew it," he said, his voice shaking. "I freaking knew it." Alex scrambled to get dressed, but Nathan ignored him, his eyes fixed on me. The look of betrayal on his face was devastating, a mixture of hurt, anger, and disgust that made my stomach churn. "Nathan," I started, my voice trembling. "I can explain." But he cut me off, pressing play on the recorder. And there it was, my own voice, mocking and cruel, talking about Nathan, about his parents, about the will. I heard myself laughing at Alex's jokes, making disparaging comments about my husband's performance in bed, even discussing ways we could manipulate Nathan's will. The blood drained from my face as I listened. Had I really said those things? Had I become so callous, so consumed by my affair, that I turned into this unrecognizable person? "How long?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Long enough," Nathan replied, his tone icy. "Pack your things and get out, both of you." As Alex and I hurriedly dressed, Nathan made phone calls. To his parents, to our friends, to my parents. By the time I left the house, my entire world had been blown apart. The aftermath was brutal. Nathan had shared the recordings with everyone we knew, effectively destroying any reputation I had left. My so-called friends from the book club delighted in spreading the gossip, their fake sympathy barely masking their glee at my downfall. "Olivia," Brittany said, her voice dripping with false concern, when I ran into her at the supermarket. "We're all just so shocked. Who would have thought you were capable of such deception?" I could see the triumph in her eyes, the satisfaction of seeing the perfect facade I'd built crumble around me. My parents were furious, not just at my infidelity, but the fact that we would end up with nothing due to the cheating clause in our print-up. I found myself back in my childhood bedroom, listening to their anger and disappointment through the thin walls. "How could you be so stupid?" my mother would yell, her voice hoarse from hours of berating me. "We raised you better than this. Do you know how hard we worked to give you opportunities? And you threw it all away for what? Some cheap thrill." Her words cut deep, not just because of their harshness but because I knew she was right. I had thrown away everything I'd worked for, everything my parents had sacrificed for, all for the illusion of passion. Annex unsurprisingly ghosted me. With no money and no place to stay, he'd vanished from my life as quickly as he had entered it. His number was disconnected, his social media accounts deleted. It was as if he had never existed, leaving me alone to face the consequences of our actions. Months have passed since that day and the fallout hasn't stopped. The divorce was quick and brutal, leaving me with nothing but the clothes on my back and a mountain of regret. Nathan's lawyer was ruthless, using the recordings to paint me as a gold digger who had never truly loved his client. I sat in the courtroom, head bowed, as the judge ruled in Nathan's favor on every count. My parents, once so eager for me to marry rich, now struggle without the financial support Nathan had been providing. The country club membership, the luxury vacations, the generous gifts that had allowed them to retire early, all gone. I watch them now, scrimping and saving, taking on part-time jobs in their 60s, and the weight of my actions feels almost unbearable. I've been trying to find a job to regain some semblance of independence, but it's been tough. In our small town, news travels fast and my reputation precedes me. Every interview feels like an interrogation, every rejection a reminder of my mistakes. "I'm sorry," one potential employer said, not meeting my eyes as he ushered me out of his office. "We're looking for someone with a different skill set." I knew what he meant. Someone without a scandal attached to their name. Someone who hadn't become the town pariah. There are moments when the weight of it all feels unbearable. Nights when I lie awake, replaying every decision that led me to this point. The what-ifs haunt me. What if I had never met Alex? What if I had been honest with Nathan from the start? What if I had learned to appreciate what I had instead of always wanting more? I think about Nathan sometimes, wondering how he's doing. I saw him once across the street, looking tired but determined. He didn't see me, or if he did, he chose to ignore me. I couldn't blame him. But dwelling on the past won't change it. All I can do now is try to move forward, to learn from my mistakes, and hopefully become a better person because of them. It's a slow process, filled with setbacks and moments of despair, but I'm trying. This experience has been a harsh wake-up call. I've learned the hard way that security without love is no security at all, that the thrill of an affair pales in comparison to the pain of betrayal and loss. I've discovered depths of selfishness in myself that I never knew existed, and now I have to live with that knowledge. As I sit here, writing this on a throwaway Reddit account because yes, even my ex-friends still follow my main account, eager for any morsel of drama, I'm struck by how different my life is now compared to just a few months ago. The big house, the fancy neighborhood, the comfortable lifestyle. All gone. But in their place, I've found something I never expected. Clarity. I know now that I can't build my happiness on someone else's foundation. That true security comes from within, not from a bank account or a last name. It's a hard lesson, learned at great cost, but one I needed to learn. I started volunteering at a local women's shelter, partly as a way to fill my days, partly as an attempt at redemption. The women there have stories that make mine pale in comparison. Tales of abuse and struggle that put my privileged problems into sharp perspective. It's humbling and in a way healing. "You're stronger than you think," one of the shelter residents told me one day, eyes wise beyond her years. We all are. It's just a matter of finding that strength. Her words have become a mantra of sorts, something I repeat to myself in my darkest moments. So here I am, starting over at 30. It's not where I thought I'd be, but maybe it's where I need to be. Each day is a struggle, but also an opportunity. An opportunity to rediscover who I am without the trappings of wealth and status. An opportunity to build real, genuine relationships based on more than just mutual benefit. I'm learning to cook, to budget, to find joy in simple things. The other day, I felt a spark of pride when I managed to fix a leaky faucet on my own. Something I would have scoffed at in my previous life. It's not much, but it's a start. To anyone listening to my story who is in a similar situation, on the verge of an affair, unhappy in a marriage, but afraid to leave, I urge you to think hard about the consequences. The grass isn't always greener, and the price of betrayal is higher than you can imagine. Talk to your partner, seek counseling, do whatever it takes to address the issues in your relationship before you do something you can't take back. As for me, I'm taking it one day at a time. Looking for work, rebuilding relationships where I can, and trying to forgive myself. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Because at the end of the day, this is my story, my mistake, my journey. And while I can't change the past, I can choose how I write the next chapter. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm determined to face it with honesty and integrity. It's the least I can do for myself and for all those I've hurt along the way. So here's to second chances, to hard-learned lessons, and to the hope that even in our darkest moments, there's still a chance for redemption.